So, for the longest time, I've wanted to do a video like this, and I feel like now, more than ever, is the right time to kind of talk about this. And that is my newfound appreciation for Scott Summers. For the longest time, I've been really anti-Scott Summers, and yeah, as I look back at all the comics, I've reread a lot more X-Men comics, I've reread more story arcs, and I've looked more into it, I've suddenly come to the realization, the fuck was I thinking? What the fuck was I thinking about all this? Honestly, what the hell was going through my mind when I thought, you know what? Scott Summers is a dick, but then I suddenly realized, no, Scott Summers is not a dick. He is, in fact, one of the best X-Men characters ever, because, yeah, he's the first X-Man, and he's had to deal with a lot of shit and thereby make some tough calls. Scott Summers can be seen as a tyrant or an asshole, but really, the dude's trying to look out for his people, because no one else is doing that. Not the Avengers, not S.H.I.E.L.D., not anyone. Scott had really had to step up to the plate, and yeah, could he have done things differently? More than likely, yeah, he could have. But let's look at it this way. Scott literally had after the events of Grant Morrison's run, and this is where we really get to see Cyclops really shine as the leader of mutant kind, is in Joss Whedon's astonishing X-Men run. This is where we really get to see the Scott Summers we know now. That being is that, after what Magneto did in New York in the Grant Morrison run, Xavier had this huge sabbatical, and Genosha was pretty much destroyed, so what was there to do? The only people that, that could really pick up the pieces was Scott and Emma, and Scott, for the most part, had to do that himself. Scott literally had the weight of the world on his shoulders because, yeah, at this point, the X-Men, and mutants in general, were now seen as public enemy number one after what Magneto did to New York in the Grant Morrison run, and also, the genocide at Genosha didn't help the cause either. So Scott really had to pull, really had to make some tough calls, because again, no one was going to help mutant kind. No one was going to stand around and go, yeah, mutants, let's help them out. No, it's like, mutants, let's exterminate them because it's different, and even though there are other superpowered beings, and sometimes we give them shit, for the most part, let's just piss off mutants. And this is what I've never got, and maybe I've just never read it in a comic book, because there's bazillions of comics, and I don't have enough money to buy said bazillions of comics. But I would just like once to go, somebody to go, hey, when we thought of mutant concentration camps and registration and all that, we're sounding a lot like a bunch of people we fought in the 40s. We're sounding a lot like, that guy that Captain America fought. Those Nazis, we're sounding a lot like them. Maybe we should think this out and not be, total assholes. But no, that's never brought up in an issue. It's never brought up. Like, no one wants to say, hey, what we're doing is kind of it, is kind of what the Nazis did to literally everyone who wasn't a Nazi. So that's kind of the thing, is that I've always, maybe someone did call bullshit on the government, or the world on a whole. But yeah, no one's done that. As far as I know, no one has managed to do that. Scott was really the only one who had to go, look, they're always going to hate us. They're always going to, think we're another Magneto waiting to happen, but here's the deal. I'm not going to let that happen no matter what. And what really showed how much balls he had, Scott literally, during Dark Reign, when the Dark Avengers, came knocking on Utopia, Scott and the rest of the X-Men said, get out. And trust me, he got them the fuck out, and then declared to the world, this place, the place used to be called Asteroid M, yeah, this is Utopia, mutants are free, and if you love mutants, you're cool to come here too, but know this, you come looking for a fight, you're gonna get a fight, don't mess with my people anymore, or you're gonna get it. And literally, the whole world went, oh, he's pissed. Because that's the thing, is that, like I've said before, that's, Cyclops had to make some tough calls, and when he created Utopia out of the remnants of Asteroid M, well, parts of it anyway, it's a long story. Utopia's a long story. But yeah, when he and the other X-Men created Utopia, he literally had, it made his job worse because now he was declaring a sovereign nation for mutants. Just like Genosha, that place that got nuked the fuck by Sentinels. So, here's the thing. Cyclops from then on had to compose himself and the X-Men as, citizens. He had to he had to make sure that everything the X-Men did had to be relegated because he knew that one slip-up was going to fuck up everything for the X-Men. Utopia could have become another Genosha at the drop of a hat, and Scott knew it. This is why I think a lot of people confuse him for being a dick, and yeah, he did do some really dick things, like create the X-Force behind the rest of the other X-Men's back. Yeah. Yeah, he could have handled the X-Force thing a little better. I gotta be honest, he could have handled, Wolverine's X-Force a little better. But yeah, he had to make some tough calls after the events of, Messiah Complex, as well as a few other things. But yeah, and also you have to understand that mutants were literally down to less than a little over 200 X-Men, 200 mutants, and most of them were all living on Utopia. So, yeah, he did, again, another call. I think he could have handled that better. But yeah, at this point in X-Men timeline, yeah, mutants were kind of an endangered species, so Scott had to be like, look, we can't be victims anymore. We gotta play on the defensive, but when the time comes, we gotta go on the offensive sometimes too. As much as I hate it, we gotta do this. Anyway, so that's the big thing with Scott. And then we come to Avengers vs. X-Men. Oh boy, this could have been avoided real easily if I hate to say it, if Captain America and the Avengers didn't come looking for a fight. Because Scott said it straight out in the first issue. When did suddenly the Phoenix Force matter to the Avengers? And I was like, that's a good-ass question. I actually thought about it, I was like, when did the Avengers ever give a shit about the Phoenix? When it came to Earth? Oh, not when it came to Earth the first time, or the second or third or fourth fucking time, or the fifth, sixth, seventh. The Phoenix has been a lot on Earth, and you've never given a shit at all. You didn't give a shit when the Avengers are supposed to be an international team. You didn't give a shit when Genosha got wrecked. You didn't give a shit when Magneto tore half of New York into a pretzel. You didn't give a shit when, X-Men were, mutants alike were being wiped out by the legacy virus. This could have easily been avoided. The legacy virus could have been cured without Colossus going through all that hell to save mutant kind if someone said, hey, let's go talk to Reed Richards or go talk to Hank Pym because this virus is causing mass genocide. So, yeah, Scott called bullshit on Steve and the Avengers saying, look, when was the last time you Avengers cared at fucking all about us? And that kind of prompted a fight. That really did prompt a fight. And yeah, again, the things that Cyclops did in Avengers vs. X-Men could have been handled a little bit better, but yeah. In the end, he got the Phoenix Force, he became Dark Phoenix, killed the closest thing he had to a father. Yes, I am aware he had as a father, but that father wasn't around. He was off being a space pirate, and other reasons that kept him away from Scott. So yeah, Scott literally had to, all he had was Xavier as the closest thing to a father, and really for the longest time, with Charles being unaware of Legion as his son, he didn't have any idea that, he didn't have Legion. He didn't know Legion was around. So the closest thing he had to a son was Scott. They literally had each other, and and you could tell that when he became Dark Phoenix and fought Xavier, that broke him. That killing Xavier mentally broke him. And after that event, he was literally labeled as a terrorist, but he was still like, look, there's now mutants are coming back. A lot of persecution's going around. So we gotta help. And yeah, I'm gonna be looked at as a terrorist, but I gotta do what's right. I can't, people are gonna call me another Magneto, and yeah, he was working with Magneto, but yeah, I can't, mutants still need me, they still need the X-Men, and yeah, you've got, the Captain America creates a team out of Avengers and X-Men, but only after I brought up the fact that they never were around the first goddamn place. So, yeah, I've got, the world still needs me, as much as I'm kind of like, I kind of messed things up royally, but yeah, Cyclops just kind of nutted up and went, look, world still needs the X-Men. I still gotta lead them. People are gonna hate me, but it's gotta be done. So that's the thing with Cyclops, is that despite it all, he still kept, chugging along, not for himself. Trust me, I'm pretty sure after a few deaths here and there of Jean Grey, his true love being killed, and, all of his friends more or less hating him, he still had to truck along because, yeah, mutant kind still needed Cyclops. It still needed a leader, and like it or not, Cyclops had to be that, he had to keep going and be that leader that he was always meant to be. He never wanted this. He never wanted to be like this mutant, this mutant savior, this leader of the mutant people. But guess what? It fell on him, and he's literally the embodiment of heavy is the head that wears the crown. So, yeah. Do I agree with some of his methods? Not really. There are, again, X-Force and a few things he did in AVX and a few other places here and there that made me go, you know what? You could have handled that better, Scotty. But for the most part, you have to understand that bottom line, everything he did was for the mutant kind. Not for himself. He never did this for himself. But what he did in his head, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, he said if I could go back, I could change. I would change a lot of things. But yeah, that's not the option for me. And even when he was during Secret Wars, when he was challenging, when he was battling when he was battling Doctor Doom at full power of the Phoenix Force, yeah, he was more like, look, I'm going to try to redeem myself and do what I can. And now he's gone, but now he may return. There's now rumors that he may return in the upcoming event called Death of X, which, oh boy, Death of X. Yeah, we've got what looks like is the final battle between X-Men and the Inhumans, because, for those who are unaware, the Terrigen Mist is now killing mutant kind. It's now affecting mutant kind, and yeah, another nail in the coffin for the X-Men in the Marvel universe. They've just been getting it ever since. It's almost like Marvel's really cracking down on them just because they're just salty about not having the rights. Anyway, so you guys tell me, what do you guys think of Scott Summers as a whole? Now, this video is just now. Let me state something real quick, because I should have stated this at the beginning of the video. I really should have stated this at the start of this video. That being is that this is just my opinion that has changed on Cyclops. That's the big thing here, is that for the longest time, I've always considered him an asshole. Every chance I got, I made a joke about Scott Summers being a dick. And I look back on him, and now I'm like, wow, I was so fucking wrong on Cyclops. This guy is okay. He did he's had to put up with more bullshit than even Charles Xavier, I think, sometimes. So that's the thing, is that, this is just, it's almost like my apology for Cyclops, really. It's definitely because, again, I was kind of being an asshole to Cyclops for the most part. But here I am I'm sorry, Scott. I wish I was more of your supporter before you died, but hopefully young Cyclops can be just as awesome as you were. And hopefully you can come back and, help the X-Men again. Anyway, so that's kind of my thing, and it's just my personal opinion. If you still don't agree that, that Cyclops is a bad person, if you don't think what he did was right or anything, that's totally fine. No ill will against you. In fact, I don't blame you if you still think Cyclops is an asshole. I honestly don't blame you if you still think Cyclops is an asshole, because, yeah, he did some pretty nasty things for mutant kind. But yeah, this isn't me saying, oh, I like Cyclops and now you should too. I'm not saying that at all. I am in no way saying that at all. And I apologize that I didn't address that further, and now I'm just doing this at the end of the video. So, again, I deeply apologize for that. But, yeah, this is just me saying, I'm sorry, Scott. And this is just me, like I said, realizing the awesomeness that is Scott Summers. Anyway, so once again, guys, you guys tell me, what do you guys think of Cyclops? Hero of mutant kind, or the new Magneto? Just comment below, let me know. I'm really curious to know what you guys have to say about all this. But once again, Hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.